Shock Monkey Radio is entertainment for adults, by adults, and the views and opinions expressed here do not reflect upon the sponsors or FXBG Public Radio. For additional information, please refer to the United States Bill of Rights. Stand warned. 7128. 7128. You know, a few months ago, YouTube, they assigned a particular at sign for each person on YouTube. Can I get a little bit of volume in the headphones, please? Assigned a little, a new, at sign. So after this, they made this change. Now Shock Monkey Radio is at Shock Monkey Radio 7128. Now, I had no say in this number. It really irritates me that I had no say in this number. It's not an unlucky number, but I wish I was able to pick it. I mean, 7128, obviously it's lucky because it all adds up to 18. Which is a lucky number. And let's go through the digits. 7, obviously a lucky number. Most people consider 7 to be lucky. You got 1, which is the original lucky number. And then you got 2. And 2s aren't lucky. 2s are not lucky by themselves. If you had 2 2s, that's a different story altogether. 3 2s, even better. And then you got 8. And 8 is a lucky number. Everyone knows this. Is because it looks like 2 3s hugging. And 3 is the luckiest of all numbers. I just wish that I had some say in the number that was, because I would have had Shock Monkey Radio 131 or 313 or, my lucky numbers. But, they had to give me 4 digits and it had to have one of them as 28. What?
7128?
Yeah. Adds up to 18. 7 is lucky, 1 is lucky, 2 is not, 8 is lucky. 8 is 2 3s hugging. Welcome to Shock Monkey Radio. This is my weird mental habits when it comes to numbers. Yeah. What is it? Is it like an obsessive compulsive disorder? I don't know. It's like playing roulette. I bet on 13 and 31 in roulette, and people don't like that. People will walk away from roulette tables because of me. Anyway. Welcome to Shock Monkey Radio. I'm your host, the Madman. Go to my Patreon, patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio. Become a patron today. You can also send me money through Cash App. Use the hashtag shockmonkeyradio, all one word. Follow me on social media at DNALATSAW on Twitter. That's the word wasteland spelled backwards. Shock Monkey Radio Redux on Facebook and at SLRobbins13 on Instagram. I also have books available for digital download on Amazon.com. Search for the author Scott L. Robbins with 2 T's and 2 B's, or you can follow the links down in the description below. So, I got kicked off of Tinder last night. I got kicked off of Tinder. I updated my pictures. I had this new picture this past week, Sunday. Somebody took a picture of me, and I really like it's a really good picture of me. So I uploaded it to Tinder yesterday. And then I looked at some of the pictures, and I was like, some of these are old. They're not very current. I could tell because, some of the pictures, I don't even have any gray in the hair or the beard. So I was like, oh, okay, these are obviously old. So I took out the older pictures and left the newer ones in there. And later that evening, I get a surprise pop-up from Tinder saying, we need to verify that you're human. I'm like, what? What's this all about? And it's pick the, what was it? A parrot. Pick the parrot. I picked the parrot and it says, lock me out of Tinder. It says, we're not going to let you open an account again. I'm like, this is the weirdest thing ever. And then I thought, it was like, should I be mad about this? It's like, no, I shouldn't be mad about this. And then I remember earlier that day, this rating thing popped up. How would you rate your Tinder experience? It was 0 to 10. So I rated it 0. So it kind of all started processing last night as I'm going to bed, because it was kind of a curiosity, even though I don't think it's a bad thing that I can't access Tinder anymore, because it was a waste of my time. And so, it makes me wonder if maybe Tinder's we want to be able to say that a lot of people have success on Tinder, but people like this guy don't have success on Tinder. So we're going to kick him off. That way we could say that his rating doesn't matter for our metrics. So EK's nodding along. So that's probably exactly what happened. But, when I come to think about it, it's
fucking up the bell curve.
Yeah, I'm screwing up the bell curve. EK just got embarrassed for cursing. That's funny. This is Shock Monkey Radio. I could curse if I want to. Darn it. Let me tell you something about profanity. number one, it turns a lot of people off, especially Southerners. Southerners, they don't like swearing, a whole lot of swearing. Plus, I think if you swear too much, it kind of shows that you have a very limited vocabulary anyway. However, I do think that there is value to certain emphasis. If we can fucking swear sometimes. Anyway, so I'm getting frustrated because I'm mispronouncing emphasis. Emphasis. Anyway, I'm going to talk about other people mispronouncing stuff here in a bit. Yeah, so I don't know what happened with Tinder. Have you ever seen people eat ice? You've seen people eat ice, right, AK? Yeah, of course. I think everyone's seen that. You know, you go to a soccer game or something like that. You know, somebody flips open the cooler. You can't have the soda yet. Game's not over. But you can have some ice. You put some ice in your mouth, cool down, get some hydration and stuff like that. People eat ice. I get it. But let me ask you something. Have you ever seen anyone sprinkle taco seasoning on ice and eat it? Yes, my reaction exactly. But I saw it happen in front of me. And I have never even considered doing something like that. I understand that. And so immediately I get into this conversation with this person. It's a woman who did this. Okay. And I say, we got in this like argument. It's like, I've never seen that. That's really kind of weird. What the hell is this all about? And then we got into this conversation like, well, what are slushies? You know, if you go and get those cherry slushy from, 7-Eleven or whatever like that, how's that any different from putting taco seasoning on your ice? And I can't really argue with that logic. And at the end of the day, it just made that woman more endearing and unique to me. It's incredibly bizarre. Make no mistake. It's incredibly bizarre. But it's incredibly cute, too, because it's so unique. You've never seen anybody do that. Anyway, it's something that happened this week that you can't really plan for or even think that you'd ever run across in your entire life. And then you realize some days you're like, wow, that's why I keep getting up and going out and talking to people in this world. Because some days you may just wake up and run into somebody who's like, oh, I'm going to get a cup of ice and sprinkle taco seasoning on it and eat it. What an amazing world we live in. Anyway. It's been a weird week, all right? A lot of stuff going on in the madman's personal life, okay? And you don't have to know about it, but you know what? When you get kicked off Tinder, you know how many people you got to ghost before you get kicked off of Tinder? Because, you would match with somebody every now and then. And you talk to them for a bit, and they're completely vacuous. They're usually only interested in, going in one direction with a conversation or a relationship, and that is sex. It's like, I kind of like to get to know people before I have sex with them. Call me weird. Call me demisexual. Whatever. I like to be able to have a conversation with people because, it takes at least an hour for me to go again after the first time. And we got to fill that 59 minutes some other way. So, yeah, I'm going to move on to the next thing. We're going to learn some stuff today. And I'm going to tell you why we're going to learn some stuff today. Because I recently, over the past week, got suggested a YouTube channel called What If Alt Hist? And to my surprise, it wasn't a documentary channel that based upon the history of Usenet groups. It turns out it's something much better anyway. It's alt, meaning alternative history. And so it's this guy who's like 20-something, and he's way smarter than me, and his videos are jam-packed with information. And so I'm watching a few of his videos, and so these things pop up that I have to look up now so I can understand the context in which he is talking about. He may be smarter than me. He may have an eidetic memory, but you know what? At least I know how to pronounce assuage. All right? Only, very obscure. It just made me feel better. It's like, Jesus, this guy's smart. And then he goes, assuage. It's like, dude, you're not as smart as you think you are. Eidetic memory. You didn't memorize the little pronunciation keys on every word, did you? Did you? You skipped that, didn't you? No need to memorize that. Assuage. Yeah, so What If Alt Hist is his name. Very, very tightly packed full of information. And you know me, I love lots of information. But because of that, there are some things I had to look up, and so we're going to look them up together. I'll be honest, I've already looked them up. So, first thing I had to look up was a guy named Tamerlane. Why haven't I heard of this guy? I was really shocked because I'm into history, and I'm kind of upset sometimes when I find something I didn't know, especially when you're somebody like this guy. So here we are. I'm going to the Wikipedia site because it's easy to like sniff out BS because there's lots of citation notes and stuff like that. And you can tell like what's controversial by the number of citation notes. Anyway, so I think that's what's convenient about Wikipedia. However, highly unreliable. All right. But it's actually under an entry called Timur or Tamerlane. And so it just makes me think, just reading that for I think every person who has ever since him who has been named Tim or Lane or even Tamer, because I think there was a drummer for Emmett Swimming called Tamer. Anyway, every single one of them, I guarantee you their name comes from this guy. Anyway, apparently he was born on 9 April, 1336, and that's apparently a very clear date of his birth, but died somewhere between 17th and 19th of February, 1405. He was a Turco-Mongol conqueror who founded the Timurid Empire. How did I not know this? His name's a part of it. Anyway, it's like going to a restaurant called Ray's and be like, "What's your name?" "I'm Ray." "Really?" Anyway, this all happened in modern-day Afghanistan, Iran, and Central Asia. He became the first ruler of the dynasty named after him, and he was an undefeated commander and is widely regarded as one of the greatest military leaders and tacticians in history, as well as one of the most brutal. Citation. Because people are going to argue about it. Anyway, Timur is also considered a great patron of art and architecture, as he interacted with intellectuals such as Ibn Khaldun, Hafez, and Hafiz-i-Abru, and his reign introduced the Timurid Renaissance. Born into Barlas Confederation in Transoxiana, modern-day Uzbekistan, in 1336, he gained control of the Western Changtai Khanate by 1370. From that base, he led military campaigns across Western, South, and Central Asia, the Caucasus. So it was basically like a rerun of Genghis Khan, only a smaller territory. Genghis Khan ran across the entire continent from sea to shining sea of Asia and Europe. I mean, of course I know who Genghis Khan is. But how did I miss out on this guy? 3 paragraphs in, and I don't see any mention of Islam. Here we go, 4 paragraphs in. All right. To legitimize his conquest, Timur relied on Islamic symbols and language, referring to himself as the Sword of Islam. He was a patron of education and religious institutions. Yeah, if you remember, at one time, the Arabs, which is a big bracket name for the Muslim people in that area, they were like the leaders in like all sorts of science and technology. All numbers are based from, come from Arabic derivations. And, a lot of optics, come from that, like telescopes and stuff. Map making, cartography. I should act like I know what I'm talking about. How did I miss out on this guy? I was wondering, I remember it was like the first time I was reading it, I went through one paragraph and I was all these hard names to pronounce, and I was like, I wonder how long into this summary at the beginning of the article until they mention Islam. Because, people frequently use religion to justify their cruelty. And it doesn't really matter. Like Islam, Christians have done it, supposed Christians. All right, so I'm going to skip everything to his death. Let's hear about his death, because I always think that that's the most important thing when it talks to historical figures. Anyway, Timur, don't call me Timmy. And that's why he'd, be so cruel in a battle. He preferred to fight his battles in the spring. However, he died en route during an uncharacteristic winter campaign. In December 1404, Timur began military campaigns against the Ming China and detained a Ming envoy. He became ill while encamped on the further side of Sir Daria and died at Farab on 17 February 1405. What was the confusion for earlier? Before ever reaching the Chinese border. After his death, the Ming envoys such as Fuan and the remaining entourage were released by his grandson Khalil Sultan. Geographer Clements Markham, in his introduction to the narrative of Clavijo's embassy, states that after Timur died, his body was embalmed with musk and rosewater, wrapped in linen, and laid in an ebony coffin and sent to Samarkand, where it was buried. His tomb, Samarkand, right? Samarkand. Where is that? I want to say it's in where Sumeria used to be. I base my city names in geography based upon Civilization 3. Anyway, I don't know. Samarkand. I don't know. His tomb, the Gur-e-Amir, stands in Samarkand, although it has been heavily restored in recent years. After a few hundred years, I'm sure you're going to need some renovations. But I mean, back then, they don't make roads like they used to. So how did I miss out on that guy? I don't know. I must have fell asleep or was sick that day in history class. Or it's just the fact that, Near Eastern legends don't come to our side of the Western world too often. All right, so let's move on to this next thing that's going to piss me off, because I'm going to be talking about the Jungian archetypes, the Jungian archetypes. You got the next pick there, EK? The color wheel. All right, so Carl Jung came up with this, and Carl Jung was I'll just read this few paragraphs here. The Jungian archetypes are a concept from psychology that refers to a universal inherited idea, pattern of thought, or image that is present in the collective unconscious of all human beings. All human beings. The psychic counterpart of instinct, archetypes are thought to be the basis of many of the common themes and symbols that appear in stories, myths, and dreams, different cultures and societies. For example, the archetypes include those of the mother, the child, the trickster, the flood, and among others. The concept of archetypes in the collective unconscious was first proposed by Carl Jung, a Swiss psychiatrist and psychoanalyst. According to Jung, the archetypes are innate patterns of thought and behavior that strive for realization within the individual's environment. This process of actualization influences the degree of individuation, and development of the individual's unique identity. Blah, 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 blah. Me search. This is me search. This is, I want to learn about me. Like I'm so interesting. See, this is what I really don't like about psychology and stuff like that, is that a lot of it is this trying to, what's my Carl Jung sign? It's like in JFP, that 4-letter system that people talk about. It's like, which are you? And it's like, they'll put it in their profiles on Tinder that I can't access anymore.
ENFJ.
Yeah, ENFJP or whatever like that. Look, you can't put people in boxes unless you're burying them. But I mean, the point is that, I look at this chart and I don't see myself anywhere on it. Maybe I'm somewhere in here. But I mean, to be honest, I think I'm here at the. I'm here at the jester thing. That's where I am, I suppose. Do I provide structure or do I connect with others? Because you guys don't talk to me very often on this. I'm not really connecting with anyone. I'm also not really providing any structure. So I mean, I don't really understand why people try to categorize the amazingly complex creatures that are human beings, because I think there's aspects of these things in all of us, and I think depending upon the time, the situation, and circumstances, you could fall into any one of these roles. I did some research about. I was wondering, if I was Catholic, what would my patron saint be? And I think it's Saint Lawrence, the patron saint of chefs and comedians. And he was a cook, or he fed a bunch of hungry people, but then he said something pissed off a king or something like that. And so the king vindictively grilled him, made a big grill and put the poor guy on the grill. And after a while, he shouted from the grill, is turn me over. I'm well done on this side. And I had to agree. I think that is my patron saint. So I mean, you could be a jester type, a trickster type, and end up in a sage role. I don't think categorizing people is a weird and futile thing that people do. And I think that, there's a vast difference between, who I am and who EK is, who you are. It's not necessarily a matter of like, is it equality, or do we just want to be able to categorize people so we can put them into some category in our head and know how to treat them? Because we already had a system like that, and it's called racism. All right. So this is just as absurd, if you ask me, because these are arbitrary things based upon a small glimpse into a person's life. How many times have you gone to a therapist or a psychiatrist and not told them everything? Maybe that's the problem with these kids today. They're actually going in there and telling everything. You should keep some secrets from your psychiatrist. My God. Anyway, this thing's pissing me off. I don't want to talk about this anymore. Let's talk about one more thing. One more thing I had to learn, and that's the Taiping Rebellion. And holy cow. Holy cow. The Taiping Rebellion, also known as the Taiping Civil War or the Taiping Revolution, was a massive civil war in China between the Manchu-led Qing dynasty and the Hakka-led Taiping Heavenly Kingdom. It lasted from 1850 until the fall of Tianjin, now Nanjing, in 1864. Although the last rebel army was not wiped out until August of 1871. The conflict resulted in approximately 20 million deaths. It is a long time. That is 14 years. All right. But there is a little notation that says citation needed. Because, especially in Asia, especially in China, there's no administrator running around the circumference of mass graves, making sure, getting accurate counts. There's thousands upon millions, there's millions upon millions of people who grew up in Asia, lived and died without ever filling out a government form or their name ever gracing a government form. Because when it comes to filling mass graves, nobody's taken any real numbers. So that's why citation is needed. Because even today, China doesn't give accurate numbers in that regard. Anyway, the established Qing government won decisively, although at a great price in physical and political structure. Yes, 20 million people is a lot in 14 years. The American Civil War, for example, which was going on right about the end of this thing. This ended in 1864, and our Civil War ended a year later. And I think in the U.S. Civil War, it was some 600, 700,000 people were killed. And that almost crippled the United States, because like so many of the young men, the workers of the country were dead. It's like, there weren't as many people working in the fields after the war. There weren't as many people in the factories after the war because, the Industrial Revolution was just, ramping up at that time. So, I mean, and it almost crippled our country. And now it's just 600, 700,000. But if we lose 20 million people, that's a big loss. It also reminds me of like, I think it was Mao. What was it? The Great Leap Forward? I got to look up something else now. Great Leap Forward. Typos. Leap Forward. China. All right. Yeah, that was in 1958. So this is like kind of a precursor to Mao's Great Leap Forward, where also a bunch of other people were killed. And in the Great Leap Forward, there was a lot of particularly the artist class, the creative types, were kind of weeded out, and it has lasting effects in China to this day because now China isn't very creative because they killed everybody who was creative, or anybody who's thought, independently of the state. And that's kind of the point of creativity is you got to be able to think differently from the status quo. And if that's not allowed in where you are, you're probably just going to end up in a mass grave without even so much as a tick in a notebook. So, Holy cow. I can't believe I hadn't heard of that either. It's amazing. It's amazing. You know, I love learning new stuff. I love it. Don't you love learning new things? You know, plus I noticed that like maybe in my YouTube feed is like I click on more informational. Even if it's some guy like talking about how amazed he is, it's like how many people died in the Taiping Rebellion. You know, I would rather watch that video because at least he's talking about information. He's not just sitting there talking about, oh, I watched this movie. Oh, I got kicked off of Tinder. You know, sometimes, you know, I like to switch it up, talk about different stuff. And we'll talk about one more thing before we get into the news. And that is a 2005 movie, The Ringer. I haven't seen this until this week. And I've heard some people say some negative things about it since it came out. Now, I didn't want to see it when it came out because it starred this Johnny Knoxville guy who got famous by punching people in the nuts. And I don't know if that's something you should make people famous for. Plus, a lot of girls would say he's good looking, and I don't get it. That guy looks like he was born 40 years old. You know, I don't, he's got those butthole eyes, you know. What? He's good looking. Anyway, a lot of the critics that I've met over, like personal critics, I'm not saying like people on the internet who wrote reviews on The Ringer. A lot of the critics that I've met said that they didn't like it is because they thought that they were making fun of special people. Make it special. And I guess it kind of was in that particular joke right there, make it special. But in reality, in the movie, they weren't really making fun of these special people. You know, they actually made them quite relatable, funny, friendly, and intuitive. Like, it wasn't long before... All right, let's talk about the premise of the movie. Johnny Knoxville plays a quote-unquote normal person. I know he doesn't look normal, but he plays one in this movie. All right? And so he had a friend who got hurt, and he needs to, like, pay for his surgery to get his fingers sewn back on. That's what it was. It's ridiculous. And it can wait on ice for a few weeks while he goes and, like, fixes the Special Olympics. And so what this gambler, shady guy that he knows, like, says, well, we'll sign you up for the Special Olympics. And because you ran track in high school, you're going to win, obviously, because you could beat a bunch. Yeah, because it's not a chess match. It's running. just because somebody is developmentally disabled doesn't mean they can't outrun you. Anyway, I mean, and so, and that's what I think was so interesting about this is because they approached it so arrogantly. And then when he gets there and he starts realizing, oh, I'm going to have to run. I'm going to have to really work to do this. And plus these quote unquote special people, you know, quickly sussed out that he's normal, quote unquote normal. All right. And I think that that's true about all people. It doesn't matter like what people have intuition for each other. You know, interpersonal intuition, the gut feeling you get from people. That's a real thing. And I don't think a lot of people discuss this very often. It's like you see some guy with a mustache and lipstick on, you know, you get a gut feeling from that kind of person. All right. But the point is that it's a very human thing to react, you know, on a visceral level and not necessarily intellectual level. You know, and so I thought it was really funny that these guys sussed out that he was a faker right away. And Johnny Knoxville, to his credit, the character he played anyway, to that character's credit, you know, he's like, yeah, you guys, you're right. And he immediately starts feeling like, yeah, I'm such a dick for even thinking about trying to do this, you know? And then he realizes he has a fight on his hands, and then he starts, you know, liking these guys, as anyone would. I mean, if you watch this movie, it's like this incredibly likable group of people. You know, they're always having fun. You know what I mean? And so, over time, you know, he starts to realize, well, like, what is important is the sportsmanship. You know, he has to win to help his friend get the surgery and so forth. And you know, but at the same time, it was about, you know, respecting those guys enough that as competitors, you know, and realizing that even though I should theoretically, by my arrogant standards, be able to win this race, yeah, I still have to run my ass off in order to do it. And at the end of the day, and at the end of the movie, I really like the end of the movie where he came clean in public in front of everyone, and you know, suffered the the scorn, what is her name? Katherine Heigl smacked him in the face and stuff like that. And yeah, I guess he kind of deserved it, but it really does show heroism.
You think Johnny Knoxville was into that?
What, being smacked by Katherine Heigl? Maybe. I don't, probably. I heard she's not a very nice person. That's just like what I've read on the internet or like overheard on a video. I don't know. I don't know where I get this information sometimes because I never go looking for information. It's like, what is Katherine Heigl like in real life? I don't know how I've assimilated this information. Anyway, but I mean, it took a lot of courage for him to do that because he kind of looked around and he's like, yeah, I don't belong here. And it's not in a negative way. It's like, these guys are champions and I don't belong with this group of champions. And I think that was kind of the point of the movie. And so anyone who says that this movie is disrespectful to people with, disabilities is like, I completely disagree. I think it shows how it shows the value of their character and how the value of their character changed the value of Johnny Knoxville's character. And that's the importance of and the value of all human beings is that we can, as steel sharpens steel, so shall one man's soul sharpen another's. And it doesn't always necessarily mean that somebody who beats you in chess. Sometimes it's just some fucker who can outrun you. Anyway, and it doesn't take much to be able to do that. Just some natural skill, natural skill and practice, I imagine. Anyway, The Ringer, 10 of 13 stars. It has Johnny Knoxville in it. I can't go too high on it, so. But I think it's a really good movie, and you should see it. It's a joy. It's free on YouTube right now. Anyway, let's get into the news worth knowing. I like to, plug YouTube. It's like maybe one day they'll change the algorithm and start promoting my stuff too. Tit for tat. Follow back, YouTube. Follow back. All right, let's talk about the news du jour. This OceanGate Titanic sub search. So the Coast Guard has said they found says more banging noises are heard, but sources unconfirmed. Oh Lord. This is like the big news. The top news is everyone's covering. You can't run from this story. It irritates me sometimes because it's like I said, it's a news du jour. All right, so here's the fast facts. The OceanGate Titan submarine carrying 5 passengers was reported missing on Sunday. U.S. Coast Guard said on Tuesday afternoon it estimates there are about 40 to 41 hours of oxygen remaining on the Titan. Titan will run out of breathable air by about 5 or 6 a.m. on Thursday, Eastern Standard Time. Yeah, not good. Passengers have been identified as OceanGate CEO Stockton Rush, French mariner Paul-Henri Nargeolet, British businessman and explorer Hamish Harding, Pakistani businessman Shahzada Dawood, that's kind of a cool name, and his son Suleiman Dawood. Dawood, probably. The 5-person submersible weighs 20,000 pounds and is capable of diving 13,000 feet. All right, let's go to this expedition. Unknown host says he has safety concerns about... Okay, who is this guy? Josh Gates, host of a variety TV venture shows, tweeted on Wednesday. Okay. To those asking, Titan did not perform well on my dive. Ultimately, walked away from a huge opportunity to film Titanic due to safety concerns with the OceanGate platform. Oh, my. There's more of the history and the design of the Titan that has not been made public. Much of it is concerning. Oh, Lord. So they're saying it's like underfunded. Rickety old thing they sent down. I pray for the positive outcome and the rescue efforts for those on board, including fellow Explorers Club member Hamish Harding. Titan submarine remains missing Wednesday afternoon after it vanished during a dive in the wreckage. Nightmares. Nightmare fuel. I was in the Navy, and the nightmares I had in the Navy, because you dream a lot when you're moving out at sea. The movement just makes your brain on, turns your brain on. And the nightmares would be of being locked underwater in a metal coffin. So any movie that, like horror or thriller movie that involves that, terrifies me. Terrifying. I'm scared of the ocean. Anyway, I'm scared of a lot of things. Horses, goats. A lot of things. Spiders. Women. Anyway, Coast Guard Captain Jamie Frederick said Wednesday this ongoing search for the Titan submarine is still a search and rescue mission. smack dab in the middle of the search and rescue, and we'll continue to put every available asset that we have in an effort to find the Titan and the crew members, he told reporters in Boston. I don't know whether it's operable or sitting on the ocean floor, or whether it's in a sea column or whether it's in the surface. You know, it's all speculation. Oh, God. Pray for those people. Nothing more terrifying than something like that. I got to move on. I'm going to start getting the willies. But I mean, everyone's talking about that. Everyone's talking about it. So I had to cover it. Let's talk about this weird old creep here. Ohio woman attempts to lure a 4-year-old child playing in the yard. Claims to be a CPS worker. 4-year-olds don't know to ask for, you got an ID? An Ohio woman was arrested. All right, little Timmy, hold on. Okay, little Jane. Little Jane. If anyone comes up and says they work for Child Protective Services, you run inside. You run away from them and get inside. An Ohio woman is arrested after allegedly trying to lure a 4-year-old boy who is innocently playing in the front yard. Lisa Nakrelli, who's 44, was arrested and charged with child enticement after a Norwood family accused her of attempting to take her child home with her after family's home security revealed home security family. What? Copy editor. After the family's home security family. System, you mean? Revealed her interaction with her young son. So they like watched it on the ring cam. Ugh. They probably caught it on ring cam. They probably checked it later. Quote, terrifying. Keep a closer eye on your children, Jamie Spradlin wrote on Facebook. Following the ordeal, sharing with her friends the security footage of Nakrelli. The woman tried to kidnap my child and posed as a CPS worker. The home surveillance footage shows a young boy sitting on an orange bicycle steps away from the Cincinnati suburb front door when Nakrelli approached him and placed her hand on his back and began to stroke his hair and back. Ooh. After a few minutes, the child runs into the house to get his mother. Yeah, I would too. When Spradlin comes out to address the suspect, Nakrelli allegedly identifies herself as a child services worker. She shows me a badge that says her name. She told the local outlet WCPO. She proceeds to rattle off my children's names. Oh, Lord. Creepy. Spradlin and Nakrelli said Nakrelli asked to inspect the family's home, claiming someone filed a complaint against them, then reportedly left without providing contact information. Hell of a gamble. Spradlin and her husband Tim told WCPO that they felt something was not right, so they looked at their surveillance video. They were further distressed when they saw the 44-year-old woman repeatedly stroking their 4-year-old son. Creeps us out a little bit. It's gut-wrenching. Tim told, yeah, I can't, yeah. Absolutely sick to my stomach, Jamie said. The family looked into the woman who said her name was Lisa, and she learned that she was not from CPS. Quote, everything was a lie. Now we're sitting here on top of being enraged that this has even happened, terrified because I don't know what her plan was, Jamie said. I know that she told my son that she has a black vehicle and there's a pretty car seat in it for him. Oh, Lord. After contacting the Norwood Police Department, Nakrelli was arrested for a criminal child enticement, burglary, and impersonating an officer. Nakrelli is being held at Hamilton County Jail on a $10,000 bond. That's it. Following the terrifying incident, Spradlin is warning fellow parents to teach your children about strangers, saying the incident was too close for comfort. Please teach your children about stranger danger and to always get an adult. Spradlin wrote in her Facebook post, I'm very proud of my son for coming to get me. Too close for comfort. Yeah.
Smart kid.
What'd you say? Smart kid, yeah. Smart kid. Well, I mean, apparently somebody raised him well. So that's the good news. And that's why, she's saying, teach your kids, if somebody, comes up, starts touching you a bunch, big red flag. I remember this, I worked at this place once, and we got this new guy in. And, within 30 minutes, he touched me twice. And my boss came to me and was like, what do you think of the new guy? And it's like, creepy vibes. Creepy vibes. And he said, yeah. And I was like, why do you get the creepy vibes? And it's like, because he touched me twice after I just met him. And it's like, that's creepy. And he boss ended up letting him go because he also got creeped out by him. But even after I told the boss that, the guy touched me like 3 more times that day. It was awful. All right. I'm not just a piece of meat, You can't just cop a feel whatever you want. And that's what like baffles me is like, what kind of person gets hot and bothered by me? Anyway, let's go on to this next news story. Biden's Democratic challenger, RFK Jr., has major complaint about the mainstream media and how it's covering him in his 2024 race. This is from Nashua, New Hampshire. Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s polling is in the mid to upper teens in the latest Democratic presidential nomination public opinion surveys, as he primary challenges President Biden. Okay. Who wrote this? Paul Steinhauser? All right. But the environmental lawyer and high-profile vaccine critic, everyone's been talking about that lately. He went on Rogan, said some crazy stuff. I don't know how crazy it was. I mean, it's just when people say stuff, and it's like, why does it got to be such a controversy? Why do words have to stay? You know what I mean? They're always passing by us. You say a word and disappears into the ether, man. It disappears straight into the past. Anyway, if you write a book and you write nonfiction on it, then it's a different story. But it's just some guy talking to a MMA nut. Who cares? Anyway. The environmental lawyer, high-profile vaccine critic, who's a scion of arguably the nation's most famous family political dynasty, like that's a bonus, charges that despite his poll position, the mainstream media has dismissed, this is a quote, the mainstream media has dismissed my candidacy as an irrelevancy. Except, of course, he said it much more painfully. Kennedy, when asked her in an interview with Fox News Digital on Tuesday during a campaign stop in New Hampshire about his standing in the polls, he alleged unfair treatment. Places like CNN, which have invited many of the Republican candidates who have much less polling support than I do, to do town halls and express themselves on their important TV shows, has not treated me that way. I think that's interesting, he emphasized. And Kennedy's polling versus Biden exceeds all but one of the Republican presidential candidates challenging former President Donald Trump for the GOP's 2024 nomination. Only Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is in double digits, with the rest of the roughly dozen contenders hovering in the single digits. Kennedy, who's making his second campaign swing through New Hampshire since launching his presidential campaign in April, was interviewed as he stood outside a bust of his uncle, the late President John F. Kennedy, outside of Nashua's City Hall. He's one of 2 nationally known Democrats, along with best-selling author and spiritual advisor Marianne Williamson, challenging Biden for the 2024 nomination. Kennedy sparked speculation about a potential White House run earlier this year by visiting New Hampshire, which for a century has held the first primary in the presidential nomination race, which was joined. He was joined on this trip to the state by his wife, actress Cheryl Hines, best known as portraying the wife of Larry David in the popular HBO series Curb Your Enthusiasm. I'm trying to find the quote I want to... Or did I already do it? Yeah. Kennedy wants to urge Biden to participate in New Hampshire primary. He stressed we ought to have a real contest. We ought to have retail politics and town halls and debates and open primaries so the Democrats could choose a candidate who's going to be the most effective in running against our Republican adversary. For a small group of people in the DNC to pick up the candidate without input from the public, I think is wrong. Now, RFK Jr. is not wrong. The media is biased against him. The media has all their chips on Biden and had them on there for 3 years now. All right? And really that means is like they have their chips on Joe Biden, because Joe Biden is clearly Joe Biden's handler, and he's a puppet president run by Joe Biden. And RFK Jr. doesn't toe the party line, column by column. He's an independent thinker in that regard. Like I'm always saying, God bless reasonable Democrats. All right. But let's be honest, Robert. It's your voice. It's the grating it's awful. It's awful. You are right. They are being, but they are being biased against you. But could it possibly be that you do not have the charisma for the job? Because you kind of want to a guy who's charming, dealing with our enemies and allies. You know, poor guy. You know, it's weird because it's such a I don't know, such a arbitrary and stupid reason not to think you can't make it to the top office in the land. I mean, but the point is that he should, and like the Democrats should have debates, you know, and the Democrats should have altering opinions, you know, differing opinions, even within the party, you know. But, you know, you send one guy to be on Tim Pool or something like that, or Joe Rogan, you know, and it's like, oh, they're they're a wacko. Why are you going on a wacko show? You know, because people, it's like, I don't know why they're so black and white in categorizing people. You know, it's just like those Jungian archetypes. It's absurd. Why do you do that? I think every single person I've met in life has changed since I met them. That's what people do. People change their minds. People change their opinions. People change their clothes. People change their underwear. People change their deodorant. All right? We live in time. It's constantly moving. All right? And time changes all of us. Sometimes your voice gets better. Sometimes it gets worse. We'll see what the future holds for me when I get to be RFK Jr.'s age. All right, let's talk about AI for a second. It's not completely useless, apparently. AI reveals ancient symbols hidden in Peruvian desert, famous for alien theories. So artificial intelligence has catapulted the world into the future with platforms that can simulate how humans talk and even process information. But the tech can also help solve history's greatest mysteries. I'm not saying it's aliens, but aliens. Researchers with the Yamagata University Institute of Nazca and IBM Japan used a deep learning AI model to uncover Peruvian geoglyphs etched into the Nazca Desert that date back between 500 BC and 500 AD. Geoglyphs are depressions made in the earth to create various shapes and lines, with Peru having what is considered the most famous geoglyphs known as the Nazca lines. You've heard of those, right? Anyway. A lot of conspiracy theories about them. Anyway, geoglyphs are often massive, with previously discovered Nazca lines reaching up to 1,200 feet long, which makes them virtually impossible to detect when on the ground. Archaeologists first uncovered the Peruvian geoglyphs nearly 100 years ago after the advent of planes, when pilots spotted the shapes from the air. Using the AI system, researchers were able to uncover 4 new geoglyphs that depict a humanoid figure holding what appears to be a club, one that depicts a fish, another showing a bird, and one that appears to show a pair of legs. There is a debate among academics as to why people made the geoglyphs, with some speculated that they wanted to honor deities who they believed could see the shapes from above, while some argue extraterrestrials played a role and the lines are the remnants of an airfield for alien spacecraft. Up until recently, archaeologists and researchers would examine aerial photos of the area with just their naked eyes and try to find new geoglyphs, which requires a substantial amount of time, posing a challenge in efficiency and scalability, according to the Yamagata researchers. The scientists turned to artificial intelligence in their quest and training a deep learning system to identify potential Nazca lines based upon previous geoglyphs in the area. So based upon mathematic formulas, they go in a long detail. And using LiDAR and other technology, they were able to extrapolate where a likely position for other new geoglyphs that we haven't discovered yet could be. So it turns out AI is not completely useless. Wow, I can't believe it. 10 minutes, 9 minutes. Let's do these last 2 stories quickly. Get a couple little laughs. Is the other one funny? Yeah. All right, so Samuel L. Jackson claims Trump broke his Marvel co-star. Says Trump represents the same rednecks, quote-unquote rednecks, that called him the N-word. All right, so guess who the third party in this is? Anyway, actor Samuel L. Jackson claimed that the election of President Trump in 2016 broke his Marvel co-star Brie Larson while they were on set together. You don't say. In an interview with Rolling Stone, the Captain Marvel actor and Hollywood legend described how he had to give Larson a pep talk to get through the shocking political upset that had so many Hollywood liberals angry. He also provided a few choice words for the former president and the current GOP frontrunner, claiming Trump represents the same rednecks that used to call him the N-word earlier in life. Jackson's played comic book character Nick Fury in Marvel movies alongside Larson and Captain Marvel. Who portrayed the titular superhero? Come on, man. Come on. Discussing the relationship in the conversation, Jackson noted how he became friends with the actress while they filmed 2017's Kong Skull Island, as well as during another movie for Netflix. He recalled bonding with Larson over the 2016 election during the second film. And they went and cried together. Trump and racist. You know what, Nick Fury? You know what, Samuel L. Jackson? The rednecks that called you the N-word, those were Democrats. Guaranteed. I lived in the South. All right. And if you do a little research, you'll realize that I think that the Republican Party was it 1861 it was formed? And it was formed as an abolitionist movement. You know, and then the people in the South, who were majority Democrats, said, no, we want to keep slavery. And then, you know, an army was raised and a civil war was fought in order to free the slaves. And, boy, those Democrats, they really didn't like it. You know what? Scarlett O'Hara, Irish, Catholic, Democrat, racist. Rhett Butler, racist, Democrat. Ashley, all their friends. Those people were Democrats. And some crybaby on there is like, oh, the president. You know what? I had to deal with Bill Clinton in office. You didn't see me crying. Oh, no, Jimmy Carter's in office. Oh, no, Obama's in office. Jeez. Every 4 years, you got a new crisis, you know? Depends on how involved you want to get in the political process. Oh, no, Sheriff Twigg got elected again. For those of you in Virginia, my county anyway. You know? Just molehills everywhere. It's just like, oh, I'm in the Himalayas. Idiots. All right, let's talk about one more story and then we'll get out of here. Celebrity chef John Mountain bans vegans from restaurant, tells them to F off. I don't know who John Mountain is, but apparently he's famous. Oh, yeah. I love it when British chefs win awards. That's funny. It's hilarious. It's like, seriously? Anyway. So a celebrity chef has banned vegans from eating at his restaurant, quote, for mental health reasons. It's like it's like I'm hot in this kitchen. All these vegans are in here and they're like, it's so cold in here. Anyway, so British chef Johnny Mountain gained fame from BBC's Great British Menu. Is that like an irony? When you name a show Great British Menu, is that supposed to be like a joke? Is that like I don't know. Anyway, so it's a BBC series described on IMDb as top British chefs compete against each other and and the food's all just horrible anyway. That's what I wrote. Anyway, top British chefs compete against each other and are scored on.
The winner is the food that the judge doesn't throw up.
Yeah, the winner. Yeah. Ugh. Anyway. Scored by a panel of acclaimed judges for the chance. So it's a bunch of British palates. So, okay. Beans on toast. Very innovative. Chance to cook 4-course banquet. Anyway. He was born in the UK and has opened multiple restaurants, but reportedly lived in Australia since 2016 after retiring from television. He opened up the Fire Restaurant among the suburbs of Connolly, Perth in Western Australia, where he reportedly led a calmer life for years. However, the chef finds himself making headlines once again after he recently banned vegans from his restaurant going forward. Quote, sadly, all vegans are now banned from Fire for mental health reasons. Parenthetically, you wrote. We thank you for understanding. XX. Sorry, not sorry. He wrote on the Facebook page of the restaurant. He followed by sharing a screenshot of the post and said, yep, I'm done. Hashtag vegan, hashtag not. Hashtag please go elsewhere. Hashtag vegan free zone. Hashtag no more vegans. They love those hashtags. Chief gave his perspective to the West Australian on a series of events that led to him banning vegans from his restaurant. Young girl reached out to me and said she was coming to the restaurant, asked me if there was some vegan options. It was my only shortfall. I said I would accommodate her. I said we had gnocchi, vegetables, and that was that. However, he noted that he'd forgotten to make those vegan accommodations and he was busy catering for a private party. Customer condemned the restaurant on Facebook. Oh, it's a Yelp war, is it? It's a Yelp war. A bunch of angry vegans, like pissed off that they can't have bacon. Go on to Yelp to prevent themselves from eating meat. It's like, I'm going to start trolling this site because I won't allow myself to eat meat. Seriously, why are vegans so angry? Anyway, Mountain claims the restaurant has been flooded online with negative reviews. They're rallying to defend his establishment as well. F vegans, seriously, I'm done, he told the Australian news outlet. At the end of the day, it's not what I want to do. They can F off. It's not a vegan restaurant. If they want vegan food, they can go to a vegan restaurant. The rebuttal of attitude of vegans is the reason for the ban. They are piling on trying to ruin my restaurant, he said. Yeah, I mean, like I think like McDonald's, when McDonald's start putting salads out and stuff like that, I was like, why do you do that? It's a burger place. It's a burger place. I mean, even when they started doing like pizzas, you know, like this doesn't work. And their pizzas are horrible. Remember them? They were awful. It's like, why are you doing this? It's like, this is not what you should be doing. I mean, yeah, it's like, what do we do to you? Or did you get so many complaints of people? It's like, I came to McDonald's and they couldn't get a salad. And it's like, go to a restaurant with a salad bar. You know, now people get their salads at McDonald's and now you can't find a place with a salad bar. You know what? When I was in the Navy, every single galley on base, not necessarily on the ship, but I mean, there was sometimes a salad bar on the ship. Every single galley on base had a salad bar. And I love that thing. I love the salad bar. You know why? Because I don't want to get into an argument with a waiter about whether or not tomatoes should be in a salad or onions. I go to the salad bar. I do my thing. I don't have to get into argument with anybody. It's not technically a salad if it's just lettuce and ranch dressing. Fine, I'll put some sunflower seeds on it. Anyway, what was that movie? Gross Point Blank, where he ordered that omelet and the lady's like, it's like, what? There's nothing in the omelet. And it's like, well, technically it's not an omelet. It's like, I don't want to get into a semantic argument about it. I just want the protein. Anyway, not a great movie, but there's a couple of good lines in it. Anyways, like, thanks for the pen. Like that one. Anyway, this is going to be the end of the show. I want to remind you to go to patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio, become a patron today. You can send me money to Cash App if you prefer it that way. Just less than $600, as you know. Follow me on social media. You can see them over there on the right. And yeah, I have books available for digital download. Follow the links down in the description below. This has been Shock Monkey Radio. I'm the Madman. And I love you.